It is by tapping into that indwelled space within that peace ensues to a magnitude that one partially ascertains while fully knowing its potential. Relationship is defined as connection in thought or meaning, by blood or marriage, to have some connection. It is a magnitude that is understood without being quantified, qualified, or needing to be dignified with an explanation, label, or literal rendition. It is captured in the smile of a child, the way in which a flower blossoms, in the hatching of an egg, a birth pollinating, a last breath being given, a first breath being taken. It's in a thought, word, and deed, in the simplicity of life as a whole, needing no clarification, just an allowance to continue in its vein, pumping life into every oracle surrendered to its pulsating vigilance in every creative sense. It abbreviates the physical to fully engage the spirit that transcends time, space, and mortality, to live within its framework, to greet each moment for all that it offers within itself, never asking for past participles or suffixes, nor future holds or potential, merely embracing it for all that it offers within this moment. Allowing the mind to observe the full gamut within the framework of the fullness is to fully implode and explode simultaneously one's limitations. Though this may be viewed as a catastrophic event on some levels, it does not lend itself to tragedy on others, as the quest for balance that truth buoys us on is fully engaged. In coming to the end of oneself, the relational aspect of immaterialism becomes apparent. Issues arise when seeking a one-sided view, scanning the emotions attached with the matter, fully engaging one side of fear, worry, and doubt, while foregoing the opportunity that has presented itself to view the same from a perspective of reverence, trust, and courage. It is by allowing what one understands to be fully immersed in truth, while in need of neither, that the boy appears and the subject matter takes its rightful place, manifesting the immaterial reality in true depth, measure, and dimension. This is the sum total of the human experience, to embrace the good and evil, needing neither to exist independently in the space where one lives, breathes, and moves. All things losing their hold over the psyche, the control panel slowly dissolves to reveal the place of utter nothingness where all power exudes, with no particular entity seeking dominance over another. It's in this chaotic dichotomy that confusion placates the soul, momentarily overwhelming it to the point of dismal proclivity, until a flicker of hope sparks a deeper flame and the house unites. This occurs long before the paint dries or the color patterns change. It is hung on the walls of the soul, proclaiming, no matter how it appears to begin or what it appears to be, in the final analysis, behold the beauty. Every soul utters these words in its own language, though foreign to outsiders. Every soul hears the meaning with unspoken diction and conceives to behold what can only be seen from its place of inner sanctity. It is coming to this place that exhibits the same response, no matter its materiality. Good news and bad news no longer exist. It is data to be arrested and rested. Happy and sad thoughts cease to conjure a response. It simply becomes thought. And from this place, news and thoughts fold into its commonality of the new thought, communing amid this rested soul. It is here where all things are constant. It is the hollow space within that harbors no ill feelings, elation, animosity, nor sympathy. It is where being blameless is the unsought objective. There is no concern to an exact science of how things should be, rather accepting things as they are. It is where innate understanding, having been stymied through life's transitions, arises in complete fullness, and one is aware of their complete emptiness. It is neither an awareness of a whole nor broken spirit, but rather spirit in its fullness. To be wholly settled in all matters and liquidated of the thoughts associated with them. Initially, this seems to be a laborious undertaking when one finally succumbs to what one has been crying out for from its beginnings. Wearied of seeking solace in the canisters of jealousy, anger, rage, happiness, lust, passion, gladness, and exuberance that line its cupboard shelves, surrender comes easy. The pleasure principle of the soul seasonally negates the essential life for a power struggle, blind to the reality that when one wins, all lose, until it ceases to reenact the dramatic scenes that resulted in tailspin dimensions of haze that gave way to clouds peddling wares that left more heavily clothed in nakedness than one's mind can truly imagine. Discarding becomes the oxymoron of the day and renders itself defenseless against the onslaught of the wardrobe keepers that are constantly peddling and parading across the runway of the soul, hoping to become its latest trends. They rip the classic model to shreds with its catacombs filled with threads and spindles webbed to contusion for the sake of one moment in the spotlight, while the true light is patient in its fullness, knowing that all seeming good things must come to their end. Since every shut eye is not asleep, waiting becomes its sole mission, and simplicity is sought amid the silks and cottons strewn from head to toe in magnificent shades of deep purples and blues. A cloud approaches and brings a sea of moths to the surface that begin to eat away at the fabric of hatred, confusion, depression, and disappointment. They move on to hope after having their fill and hit a brick wall. Its incisors were not crafted to eat away at sustainable matters, only circumstantial evidence that materially parades itself in appearances to cover the fabrics once black and white, once colorless. Hope is restored to its true origin, and the moths are clearly seen amid the sea of nothingness. They gather and take flight to uncover another parody that has slipped into obscurity due to its own negligence. O unattended soul, left to your own devices, seizing every opportunity to avail to schisms and unwaged wars, to dance to tunes that lack any harmony. It cascades its inhabitants in temporary light to be extinguished by the first act to entertain and distract from the truth. Though the muscles have formed, my thought has become dislodged from your concept. My eyes no longer have foresight to see. No matter how many persons may crowd into this empty space, I still sense the hollowness. I fully separate to fully engage the picture frame coated with ice from here to eternity. It awaits the dross of my own endurance to skim what is true, without quirks or qualms from outer spaces. The voice within is privy to the head of the house. All others will render a perversion of sorts. The audience scenario breeds deception, many voices and opinions crowded into one body. The overloaded soul wanders aimlessly, seeking relief from this overabundance. It stands in still respite, barely aware of its breathing. The scales fall off as the fog dissipates. The reality brings a deepening clarity that rings from within, silencing the voices of those gathered to redirect through their own understanding what was solely remembered to one. This reality invites the soul to seek delight beneath the teachings of well-meaning fellow travelers, progressing to their own purpose delivery while supposing to spearhead others. Blind leading the blind, ditch seekers of an age that has passed away. Choice roams freely amid the directed opulence that glistens in shades of opaque brilliance. Being content and having contentment is a moment-by-moment choice to not be moved, unshakably established, firmly fixed, not fixated, seated in the solitude of knowing and being known, impartial to both, knowing that tears come and go, pain comes and goes, hope wanes and builds, faith is grasped, not understood, held loosely and procured at cost in the moment of its arrival. Hunger and the lack of food are not one and the same, and knowing that common sense is not based on any one set of circumstances, but is constantly reinventing itself as new worlds are formed every moment within one solitary existence. It is in the attempt to confine truth to a systemic form that the endless confusion ensues. We are in a state of constant unlearning, laden with ribbons of carbon that mimic the essence of purity. Somewhere in its delivery, truth is uncovered when one seeks with all their being from within. Acceptance of its proportions, knowing that everything has its place within this framework of commonality, differs from soul to soul. When we come to the place where we lose sight of what we think we saw and deaf to what we think we heard, thought will illuminate truth within this newly created space. It is here the truth dwells, uncrowded, uninhibited, undoctored, unlabeled, uncategorized, unmaneuvered, unsolicited, uncultured, unmeasured, unquantified, unqualified, unencumbered by sideline perceptions and views that often delay our coming out. Nothing and no one has the strength to utterly silence what roars within the essence of every soul, opting to surface amid a sea of swollen desires that suffocate the life-giving morsel. The remnant of sustenance is so subtly snuffed out producing deeper welts of bated breath and blurred vision to arrive at this place of clarity and established beauty. Its axis rests on the eternal summation that all things are as they should be, bearing no resistance to the inevitable pendulum that swings ever so slowly. It stirs the winds of times anew. It stirs the winds of time anew within a soul in whirlwind measures of doubt, giving way to a fear that breeds terror, disillusion, and confusion. Still, the spark flickers, growing stronger with every faced contradiction, every preconceived notion having swelled to its epic portion, unveiling truth that once awake can no longer be stilled. It is stirred to respond and reveal, not to contemplate potentialities, settling scattered anomalies via the breach. The contract remains intact. The contract remains in effect, despite the deviant behavior of the wayward soul, whose depth is perceived or observed.